So let's get into it. The first mod, it's called Vanilla 128X by GPP77, and it's another texture pack. It's a 128 by 128 texture pack, and for the most part, I think it did a really good job. And from what I understand, it tries to be faithful to the vanilla textures while upscaling it all to be incredibly more detailed. And to be fair, from a good distance, everything does look like it could be vanilla. However, once you get up in close, you can really see the differences. I must say that this mod does a lot of stuff right, and stuff like the floor right here just looks amazing. The white brick looks really good. I really like the tiles, even though they don't really connect very well. And look at the stone. And the texture actually looks like stone, and it's so incredibly detailed. You can even see that my banners still look completely normal, but if you get really close to it, you can see that they are not the same. Even the snow looks so different. However, something I do gotta note is that some of the textures are just completely wrong. Like, this is meant to be regular grass, and for some reason the grass just is not working, and it just looks awful. Some of the leaves just look really off, and I don't know what I don't like about it specifically, but when you get close, it just looks super odd. And you can see it especially with the bushes, and if the fruit trees were alive, then they would also look kinda awful. Another bug I've noticed is look at my chat. Something off is happening there. To be fair, I don't really use the chat often on my single player, but if you were playing multiplayer, then I'd perhaps stay clear of this one. All in all, I think that this mod is super promising. I would definitely like some of the bugs fixed, and hopefully the leaves get a rework, but I do really like this one and had to show it off. The next mod is called Reforged Tools, and all that it does is it changes the look of the tools, so it no longer looks super blocky and super sharp, and I think it just makes them look pretty great. Look at the axe, it's so cool. The knife is also something I'm a big fan of, and it truly looks like a real knife now. All the animations do seem to sync up with it, so nothing looks super off and it's just ready to go. And it seems to have most of the tools all revamped, so if this might interest you, go give it a look. Now the next mod is something I've been wanting for such a long time, and it's just the ability to dodge. This mod is called Salty's Dodge Master. Say that we're trying to fight a drifter here, and he comes in for an attack, we can just dodge out of the way. It even has some cool animations in third person mode, and you can't just spam it, it's got a little bit of a cooldown. However, I think this is a super cool mod, and honestly, I might just end up using it. I might forget about it, to be honest, but I don't see any reason why you wouldn't like this mod. Makes combat a little bit more fun, but it won't make you better, that's for sure. This is definitely a cool one, and it might be sticking around for me. Now, since we're messing around with some moving mechanics, I have another cool one for you. And now we're checking out Salty's Freelook. So if you're walking in a straight path, what you can do is you can hold down caps lock, and you can just look to your left and right. Like, a lot of survival games have this, and it's just really nice if you can manage to get a straight path. You can also rebind this so it doesn't need to be caps lock. However, I find this to be pretty nice. But personally, I think it would have been really cool to just have this as the middle mouse button. Either way, caps lock works for me, and I think that this is a super cool mod to have. Now the next mod is something that I'm super excited about, and it's an enchantment table. This mod is called Krpg Enchantment. It looks very similar to Minecraft, where you just throw your tool in there and a gem in the second slot, and you get to choose between some upgrades. However, you won't be able to read them, so unless you get good at reading these runes, then it'll be completely random. However, something you gotta do before you do this is you have to make a regent charging table. You throw your gem in the middle and you surround it by temporal gears, and very slowly you'll see a gear start to appear on your screen, and it'll become more and more visible over time, get a little bit faster, change color. So let's just give it a bit and you'll slowly start to charge the diamond. And it's done. That does take a couple of minutes, but once you're done, it will be charged. And because I used 5 gears, it has 5 charges on it. We throw the charged diamond above our pickaxe, and now we get to choose one of these 3, which I'll just go with the middle one for now. And a little progress bar will tell us that it is in fact imbuing our pickaxe with some sort of ability. And it's done. So what did we get? It has Shocking 5, which I don't think is great for a pickaxe, to be honest. However, we'll try it out real quick. We got a shiver here. Let's hit him. And I don't think it did too much, to be honest. I feel like this isn't a good pickaxe ability. But the idea would be to go give it another try, make a whole bunch of different stuff. There's a whole bunch of different enchantments, and from what I can tell, it's mostly combat oriented, so perhaps a pickaxe wasn't a good choice. But yeah, I hope that they expand upon it and make it really good for tools. Something like the efficiency and silk touch upgrades would be amazing to see. If you want some cool weapon abilities, this is something to check out. The next mod is called Fairywren, and it's another texture pack. I found this and had to show it off. It definitely has its own very unique style that it has going on for it, and my base does not look the same. The other one tried to stick with the vanilla textures and colors. Oh, this is really bad timing. Yeah, so anyway, this one went off and did its own thing, and it's definitely not my favorite, but I can definitely see some people liking this. It's super vibrant. Like, look at the road. It was never that blue before. This right here is limestone, and honestly, I do like the color of that. Claystone also looks very unique, and this right here is aged claystone, and they look nothing like the original. And the grass is super green and has a bunch of texture on it, so it actually looks very grassy. But if we go inside real quick, look at the kitchen. It looks so different now. I actually don't mind how this looks at all, but very different. But yeah, you can see that a bunch of the blocks haven't been changed yet. I assume it might in the future. However, stuff like the logs, the mudstone, the doors, and a bunch of other blocks have yet to be changed. But again, this isn't something I would really consider using, but I know that there's people out there that would definitely like to know that this existed. So if you're one of them, go give it a look. And the next mod is called Wrenchable Rooftiles. It's so incredibly simple, and I'll make this short, but it does exactly what the name implies. And now you can wrench the roofs. So if you misplace it, you just give it a good wrench, get it oriented the right way, and it's good to go. Honestly, I think that this should be in vanilla, and I'm going to be holding on to this one. And I had to show it to you guys. So in the past, I've shown off a couple mods that help you do clay forming and automate it a tiny bit. And I have another one for you. This one is the Pottery Wheel, and it adds a recipe for a simple pottery wheel, which is relatively cheap. You place it on top of a moving axle, and it powers it. Then you place some clay on it, and you choose a recipe, and you just hold right click on it, and it'll start to build it automatically without you having to place each separate square. The reason why I'm showing this one off, because unlike Napster, where it also does forging and smithing and stuff like that, this one only works for pottery, and it's a really good alternative, although it can make you pretty dizzy if you sit here and stare at it for a long time, but it does what it needs to do. You also don't need to power it. However, it does make it quicker if you do. See right here, it just goes a little bit slower, but it still gets the job done. You don't just place the clay on it. You still gotta sit here and hold right click, so it doesn't fully automate it. I wish there was an option just to leave the clay and have it do its thing. I think that some people would really like it. Basically a less advanced version of Napster, and another reason to work on windmills. So if you like this one, give it a try. So speaking about automation, you might have been able to tell, but I'm very big into it. And it's always been my goal to get this to go as fast as possible. And I've put a lot of work into it. Right here, I have 16 different windmills. Each of these small windmills has 4 different rotors on it. But what if I told you that with the MillWright mod, we could have one singular rotor outputting the same amount of power as the 4 that's on one of these? And it's true. The MillWright mod adds a ton of cool stuff. What I'm most interested in is the 8-sail windmill. However, there's also a 4-sail windmill, a 3-sail, and 6-sail. There's also a vertical windmill if you're interested. However, it doesn't exactly fit any of my designs. So anyway, we're gonna come over here and we're gonna throw down the 8-sail. We're gonna throw some sail centers on it, just like that. And now this gives out 400 kN, which this one can only put out 100. So ideally this should be giving out 4 times the amount of power as that windmill over there. Plus, I think it just looks really cool. And if you wanted to, you could remove the other rotors and leave it at that. Or you could replace all of them and have 4 times the amount of power coming out of these and really make your automation fly. So if that interests you, you should give it a try. Now this is going to be the shortest mod showcase I've ever done, but I don't have too much to show for it. However, it's something I do need to mention. It's called Fogless. All it does is it completely removes the fog, and you might be asking yourself, why would somebody do that? Well, there's some locations that get super foggy, like for instance the top of this mountain right here is usually covered in fog, so I would never consider building up here. However, I know that some of you might be interested in building castles on top of mountains or mountain food storages, and this one could definitely be for you. To everybody that's just playing on the ground, I recommend you leave it on. That way you have an immersive experience. But I know that this mod will save somebody out there, and you're welcome if it did. So it's safe to say that I've spent a ton of time on these greenhouses. I have quite a few of them, and I put a lot of effort into these to try to make it so they didn't look like a square, and I chiseled out a bunch of the glass. However, I could never get it quite right, and it's hard to see, but the inside of it looks so much worse, and I wish there was an option to make this a lot easier. Well, with the glass roof mod, it is just that. The glass roof mod has an insane amount of variety that adds to glass. Some of my favorites is just the slanted roofs, and it would have made this so much easier to work on. And if you want different colors, you can get just that. Different kinds of slants. That way, if you want an overhang, you can do that. You want a roof tip? We got just that. I wish they connected, but I guess we can't have everything. So yeah, I'm a very big fan of these. However, it is a shame that you can't chisel them, so you can't make them completely see-through like I did here. However, this could definitely remove a lot of the headache that was caused by trying to make these, and I could see a ton of people just getting really into them. So give them a try. Here I am in a new world. We are currently at the spawn, and I have two mods to show you guys. They both work together, and it's RPG overlay and RPG difficulty. From what I know, it doesn't add any enemies, but the enemies that are in the game will become stronger the further you are away from the spawn, and also how old your world is. And from what I hear, caves get a lot more dangerous as well, because it surely needed that. So bear with me here. I did set it to nighttime, and now I'm gonna look around and find our first enemy. And here we are. As you can see, when I hover over him, we can see his damage tier and his health tier. Right now his damage tier is literally 0, and his health tier is 2. And when we loot him, we get nothing, which is pretty normal for the base game. However, I'm gonna travel really far from the spawn, and we'll give it a quick comparison. I've traveled about 22,000 blocks out, and I'd say that's pretty far. I'm now gonna look around and see if I can find any enemies, and also we'll take a look in a cave in a moment. Alright, not quite a drifter, but I did find a polar bear, and its health tier is 89 with a damage tier of 2. If that's a damage tier of 2, I want to see what can be higher. Okay, so I had to go into a cave because nothing was spawning on the surface. However, look at this, a Nightmare Bowtorn, tier 4 damage, tier 41 health, and everything else is super high level here. So from looking at all this, the Bowtorn seems to have the most damage. And we're only a couple days in, so just imagine how much harder it can get. Now we're just gonna kill a couple and see what kind of loot that we can get from them. Supposedly, we should be getting some good stuff from them now. Wow, I gotta say, they are absolutely tanky, and they definitely have more health than vanilla, and he just won't die. I do have an Iron Felks, but this is getting ridiculous. I think he's survived like 40 hits so far. The dude just will not die. Wow, this is actually getting crazy. I really hope we get some good loot out of this. He's still up. He's still kicking. It's been the same dude this entire time. To be fair, he has a health tier of 86, which is pretty close to that polar bear. Well, yeah, if I had to guess, this guy has like 10 times the health of a normal polar bear, which we'll go check out because the overlay does work for regular vanilla. But he is dead. Let's try to loot him. Oh my. Yeah, 8 temporal gears, 25 regular gears, 19 flax, and a Jonas piece. It actually makes killing them pretty worth it. However, I must say if I was in survival mode, there would be no chance of me killing all these guys. At least without a couple stacks of arrows. This guy alone probably would have taken a stack of arrows himself. Okay, so we're back in our world without the difficulty mod. We're just gonna throw down a polar bear. And there we go. He's running away. His health tier is 13, which means that mod made him so much harder. That Shiver had about 8 times the amount of health as a normal polar bear, which already has the most health out of any other thing in vanilla. So yeah, if you wanted to add some difficulty, but be very rewarding for said difficulty, I definitely recommend this one. And maybe you guys should give it a try. Have you ever wished that there was more door options? Well, with OP Door Pack, we have just that. This mod adds a ton of doors. This is most of them, and I must say that they look amazing. I slapped one on the front side of my house, and I like it so much more than the vanilla ones. This door seems like it was perfect for greenhouses, and it looks like it should add a ton of light to the room. Do you have an ugly trapdoor in your life? Let's replace it with a cooler looking one. There's also these super cool cupboard drawers, and I think it could be super cool for cabinets and stuff. Hide some of your chests with them, and they can go in different directions. So it doesn't just need to go sideways. You just have to place them right, and they can open side to side. Yeah, I love this mod, and I will absolutely be holding on to it. Will you? The next mod adds a little bit of difficulty to your world, and it's called Vigor. What it does is it gives you a stamina bar. Things like sprinting reduces your stamina, of course. Also swimming reduces your stamina greatly, and if you completely run out, you will drown. So this will make rafts so worth it. Another great change it does is makes your nutrition vital. The fruit bar reduces your jump stamina cost. The vegetable bar reduces your stamina drain rate. The grain bar increases your max stamina. The protein bar increases your stamina recovery rate. The dairy bar decreases your recovery threshold. And each of the bars get an added 20% when they are fully topped up. So this would be the change that I would need to actually care about my nutrition, and that has me very interested. So I will absolutely be considering this for any future playthroughs. So give it a try. I know I might. And the next mod is something that I will personally be using. It's called Translocator Relocator. All you have to do is find yourself a translocator, and you have to have a steel pickaxe. You go up to it, and you break it, and you retrieve the translocator. You bring it to a place of your choosing, you place it down, you shift right click it, and you set yourself a key. For this case, I'll set it as home. Then you have to find yourself a second one. You place it down as well. You shift right click it. You set the key as the same one as the other one, in this case home, and now they're linked. If I go through it, it should teleport me on the roof over there. Just like that. That is such a cool one. If you have a big base like me, you could use it to teleport around the base. You could use it to teleport around the world, or you could keep one on you, go venture off as far as you want, and you could use it to keep teleporting back to your base, then back, you destroy the translocator, and then you can keep venturing on forward. This is amazing, and I think it's absolutely worth trying out. So the next mod is now a must-have for me. It's called Better Traders, and all that it does is it changes some of the caravans that the traders have, and just shakes it up a bit. This is one of them, and I think it was very well done. It's got this really cool entrance, and this little area just for him. However, this one isn't much different, but I'll go ahead and find some more to show you guys some variety. This one is insanely cool. We got a little trader tent here, and the wagon that I assume he's coming in. This is another one that's super well done. It makes me worry for his safety. Here's another tent and wagon. This one is definitely a different color, plus the wagon is very different. Here's another really cool one. It's like a little greenhouse wagon. And if I had to guess, he's a survival goods trader. I was expecting plants and stuff, but hey, this is another really cool one. Now look at this one. It's just a random tractor. It even has a little automation to it. That is insanely cool. However, I don't see a trader nearby, but there's a lot of wildlife, so I think the trader did get eaten, which confirms that this could be bad sometimes. The poor trader. I found another one. This trader has its own house. Not something you see every day. It's filled with stuff. However, he's on the top floor, and there he is. Yeah, this is a really cool trading post. And there is so many more. I only showed you a small fraction of what you can find. So I highly recommend this. It just adds a little bit more variety to the game. And what's not to like about that? So welcome to my village. I've always intended on growing it out and trying to make it lived in. And this mod right here will absolutely help with that. It's called the VS Village, and all it does is let you add your own villagers, and it's insanely cool. So the first thing that you need to do is craft yourself a summoning horn. You right click the ground, and it spawns a village trader. If you talk to him, he'll sell you all the items that you need, and also you can sell him stuff, which that alone is really nice to have. You could just have him come to your house, and you could just sell him food and get an insane amount of gears. It's always an option. However, you do need to buy some of these. You absolutely need a villager bed, a brazier, and the mayor workstation. So what you want to do is you want to throw down a bed and a brazier along with the mayor workstation. This is integral because you can go up to it and right click it, and you can change the name of the village, the radius of the village, which for now I'm just going to do 50. I'll update it, right click it again. And from here we can see all of our residents. We can hire the traders. However, they need beds. So place as many beds as you want. Right now I'm just doing it out in the open, but you could be filling all the houses with them. And any trader that you do want, you're going to need to have workstations. They're going to come to these during the day. Then at night, they're going to sit around the fire. You can set up multiple of these. And while I was testing it, I did it in that building over there, and it still counts all the villagers. So I guess you could have multiple of these. However, it doesn't seem to see the workstations from over there. So there is some testing to be done. So either way, just do what I did there. I did everything I did over there, right over here. And as you can see, I have a ton of villagers here. I got rid of all the tables, so I'll just go ahead and replace them. So now we should be able to hire some. You can see them popping up to my left. And again, they do have some requirements. And it says I don't have enough food workers to get any of the other ones. So you're going to have to mess around with this. And eventually you'll have a giant village. But hopefully you don't do it in your throne room. This was probably a poor choice to do it at. And ideally you can spread everything out. Place one of these in each building. Make little seating places for your villagers. Add little bedrooms. And really make the place come alive. So if you're like me and this interests you, give it a try. Do you wish that roofs were a little bit easier to place and a little bit more customizable? Well, with one roof, we got just that. So we all know how regular roofs work. You gotta make little corner pieces, the regular roofs, you connect it all up, and that's pretty much it. You are very limited. With one roof, you get a couple more blocks that are insanely nice. Let's say I want to do the corner piece. I can just place these blocks just like that, and it does it on its own. No extra pieces required, and it's very simple. What this mod does is it adds a couple recipes, one of which being the one roof dynamic block, and there's a bunch of them. I just happen to be using pine, but you can make it out of any of the blocks. Now this mod is so much cooler than just this. Say I want a really tall roof and I want to connect this block to this, which you normally wouldn't be able to do. We can add 2 of these and it gets taller. We can even add 3 of them if we want, or 4. You can keep it going. So if you want some really tall roofs, that's an option. Let's say we want a really long and flat roof. There you go. It is now something that you can do. And if it for some reason messes up, what you can do is you can just hold right click with a hammer and it'll change to a bunch of different positions. Now, one of my favorite things about this mod is you can add a roof and it'll fill it in with the block that's directly under it. But you can also take your hammer and shift right click it, and it can go away if you don't want it there. Another really cool thing that you can do is you can put the hammer in your offhand, take some planks, right click it, and now it frames it up. This is incredible. And from the inside, it just looks so much better than the normal one. And from the outside, you can barely tell except for the corners. Now there's some truly cool things that you can do with this. Say we want to make a tall piece, then slope off, we can do that. Or if we want a more gradual slope, we can do that. It's great for overhangs, and it's a seriously cool mod. So yeah, have fun tinkering around with this one. This will be sticking with me as well, and I can see me customizing a lot of roofs this way, and maybe redoing the entire village, because this one is so cool, and I would classify it as a must-have. So I didn't intend for this today, but I happened to find another very interesting texture pack. I guess it's based off of a super popular one from Minecraft, and again, it's very unique. Just the buildings out here alone look so incredibly different, and if I'm being completely honest, I'm not a big fan of the logs. The rest looks pretty cool though. However, the castle part of my building looks insanely cool. I love the stone brick, and the walls just look extra special. The banners are untouched, which I'm very happy to see, and there's definitely a couple blocks that are untouched. It seems like a lot of these texture pack creators really don't like to mess with the stone tiles, which is a bit of a shame. However, I happen to like these textures, so it's not all that bad. Inside of here is very much so changed, and the flooring is so incredibly different. This block in particular looks so different. While I don't like how it looks just for this room, I could see that being very nice for roads and stuff, but it ruined my throne room. But again, not that big of a deal. But I had to come back to that plaster. It is just so nice looking, and I wish vanillas looked just like it. The pathing here looks so cool, and the claystone definitely looks different. But I must say, it again ruined part of my building, and it just looks so off. But if I had this texture pack when I started to build this, I think that would have been very avoidable. This right here is a part of expanded foods, and it's been changed, which is also very nice to see. A lot of the crocks, the bowls, just look so incredibly nice. And look at the clay ovens. They look so incredibly nice. The mud brick has actually been changed. That is awesome to see. They don't always do that, you know? And the tables just look so good. So yeah, I had to show you guys this one. And if I find any more in the future, I'll be sure to share it with you as well. But I hope this showcase at least showed you one mod that you guys want to use. I know I found several that I personally want to use. And it's really fun to make these. So if you did enjoy it, please leave a like. But that being said, guys, thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next time.